All right, what's up, guys? This is going to be I guess I'll title it a review slash discussion for convenience sake, I guess, of the first season of the Witcher Netflix series that just recently dropped. I've had some time to marinate on it, so now I can talk about it. I can give you my thoughts, because there is a lot, there's a lot to talk about. Um, there's a lot to talk about. So yeah, I'm just gonna be talking about the things that I liked, things that I didn't like, things that worked, things that didn't work for me, all that jazz. This is going to be a kind of impromptu, off the cuff, no notes, really just pure emotion, just like my gut reaction to this show. So I apologize for this. Is definitely going to feel a bit everywhere, a bit disorganized, but I think this is probably the best way to do it, instead of having this scripted, which I probably should do because this video is probably going to be way longer than it needs to be, but fuck it, it's off the cuff, man. So yeah, a lot of thoughts about this first season. Um, I guess we should start off with what did I actually like about this series. Before that, did I actually like this series in the first place? Yeah, I did like the series this first season, despite some major issues and gripes that I had with it, that I think just stems mainly from my familiarity with the source material. That's where a lot of my problems comes from. Um, but putting that stuff aside, I do think that yeah, this is a pretty enjoyable series, or just first season of television. Um, so the things that did work for me was the music was just like, oh, get inject that into my veins, man. It was beautiful. I love the music in this series. Specifically want to shout out Geralt's theme song is I'm listening to that song like every day in my car. Like I love that song. Um it really does remind me of like a Percival song from The Witcher 3, right? Like a Steel for Humans or Silver for Monsters type of song. It's that good. Also, every song that Dandelion sung was a hit for me. So the music was just a hit for me. It was great all around in my opinion. One little nitpick that I do have about the music is that I just needed at least one cameo, just one cameo from Percival. Again, what I just said, the band who plays Steel for Humans and Silver for Monsters in um the Wild Hunt. They do have a couple other songs, I do believe, like the Ladies of the Wood. I believe they also provide like the vocals for that track. But man, could you imagine if we had just one song, just one cameo from Percival in this first season? That would have made a huge difference. Like the music is already good, but that would have taken the soundtrack to like a god tier level if Percival was in this. So I fingers crossed, man, future seasons that they do include them in the soundtrack because oh boy, like like my nipples are already hard just thinking about Percival in The Witcher Netflix, man. That would be awesome. Um so yeah, music was really really good. The fight choreography as well. There's been no shortage of praise for the fight choreography in The Witcher, and I share a similar sentiment to that. Um, it lives up to the hype of what everyone has been talking about. It is it's pretty incredible, especially the fight with Geralt versus Renfrey is just like, oh my god, dude. I'm a huge fan of blending in, the Witcher signs with some of these fight scenes. And just whenever Geralt uses that Ard sign is just like like I'm so down for that. But yeah, the Renfrey fight, I don't think any of the fights really, match that quality after the Renfrey fight because like good lord, that set the bar so high. So like naturally it's gonna be tough to follow that up. But I don't know, I did enjoy the fights. Because I think especially like with the monster fights, like the fight against the were they Neckers in in episode 8 that Geralt went up against? I think they were Neckers. But like that fight and then the Kikimora fight as well, I think they really did well to show off like sure, Geralt comes in with a plan, to defeat these monsters or how to tackle a given situation. But like at the end of the day, these fights are still like very unpredictable and like very dirty and visceral and um I don't know. I just think that they really those fights specifically came off really, really good. Um so yeah, fights, music, the characters also really, really worked for me. I really loved like this show, in my opinion, would have lived or died by how well portrayed or how well written the characters of Geralt, Ciri, and Yennefer were, right? In my opinion, the show would have failed if those three characters were bad, right? So thank the gods that, in my opinion, I enjoyed, Geralt, Ciri, and Yennefer. They were really, really good in my opinion. So shout out to Henry Cavill, Freya Allen, specifically Anya Shalatra as Yennefer of Vengerberg was something I did not know I needed in my life, but was absolutely just like, for me, stole the show whenever she was on screen. Dare I say, she was my favorite character in this first season. Um, I came in expecting to like Cavill and was pleasantly surprised by him, but Yennefer, Anya Shalatra's portrayal of Yennefer was just like I was shocked at how great she was because like it's no knock against her because like I've never I'm unfamiliar with that actress's work. I don't even think I've heard of her before, but good lord, she just like she really like she killed it with Yennefer in my opinion. I think the moment or the scene that really solidified her as my favorite character in this first season was the her with the dead baby after the assassination attempt on the queen, which does end up successful, RIP. But the conversation with the baby alongside the beach and just the music that's playing, that I think don't quote me on this, but I think that's probably Yennefer's theme because they do play it, throughout the season as related to Yennefer. Um, but her talking to this baby and she says things along the lines of, your mother was right about one thing. We are just vessels for them to take and take and take and her talking about friendships and her talking about how love and how that's just fleeting, in her experience, right? Um, and her saying that you've won the game without even knowing it, or something along those lines. It was just like that. The writing for that entire scene with the dead baby was on point, and her acting for that scene was just on point as well. And I honestly think that one scene with her on the beach talking to the dead baby was one like I would probably have to watch this season over a second time, but I honestly do believe that scene is probably like this probably sounds so like hyperbolic or whatever. Um but I think that might be like my favorite scene in this first season. Just and it's incredible that I'm even saying that or I'm even considering this scene to be one of my amongst my favorites in this first season because it's not a scene that involves any fighting. It's not a scene that involves Geralt killing a monster or anything like that. It's just a scene Yennefer talking to essentially but to herself, right? With in front of a beach watching the waves lap over themselves. It's just her talking, and that scene just really, really resonated with me. um so moments like those, just like, or that moment specifically solidified, okay, Yennefer or Anya Shalatra is this character is my favorite in this first season. So kudos to her, man, because she was awesome. So yeah, Geralt, Yennefer, Ciri, they worked. The hopping between timelines was also a pretty neat idea in my opinion. It's not that confusing, but I could understand some people being confused by it. I don't know, it was just something that I didn't expect. So like, I think it was episode three, right, when you see Yennefer kind of like emerging from those doors, and then you see Kid Full Test, and his sister by his side as children. And that was that aha moment, like, oh, wait a minute. And I don't know, I just thought that was a pretty cool concept. It takes a while to get to all connect, but it does, eventually get there. And I don't know, I thought it worked for me. Um, so that was cool. Also, some other characters that I want to shout out that I thought were fantastic were um, obviously Yaskier, right? Yaskier, Dandelion, the Bard, whatever you want to call him. It was just he was great, man. He provided um, he was kind of an avenue for like Dandelion in the books is really one of those people that allows for Geralt to kind of let down his guard a little bit, or I don't even know about that, but like he kind of like he's the one that like really gets like the kinks in the armor of Geralt's armor, right? His stony faced persona. Dandelion is really the one who's able to kind of like penetrate that a little bit and kind of bring a little bit more out of the Witcher than like the normal average person can. And just the interactions between those two characters was just like everything that it needed to be, right? So that was really really great in my opinion. Um, and just Geralt, man. I feel like I didn't really get much into him, but like Henry Cavill, I already talked about this in other videos, but like seeing him actually in this character's shoes, it just came across to me that Cavill is so passionate about this character. He did his homework, he did his research. He knows what he's talking about, and he understands the character of Geralt, in my opinion. And it just looked like he was having fun with it, and that really like came off the screen. Like he really exuded just like someone who deeply understands this character, and yeah, I don't know. It just looked like he was born to play this role, is what it came across as to me. So shout out to him. But yeah, so obviously Dandelion Yaskier was awesome. Um, and also Tasaya, the Rectoress of Aretusa, was also somebody that coming into this was just someone that like she's not my favorite character. She's not a character that like I hate either. She's someone that like I respect for who she is and what she does in the story, but I really enjoyed her and Yennefer's relationship in this series, like getting a little bit more of it. um because at least to my recollection, we do get to see them interact and stuff like that, but like not to this level, I don't believe so. I don't know. And just that actress playing Tasaya, I think her name is like Mayana, something like that. Um Again, just stellar acting with that character specifically. Um so I was really a big fan of her. Um and Malsack, I'll give some props to Malsack as well. I thought I really really enjoyed him. Um so yeah, characters overall was pretty strong, and I don't think that there's like a character or like a glaring character that I could be like, oh, that just didn't work for me, or like in terms of acting, right? That they didn't, that the acting just wasn't good, or anything like that. But like those characters were the ones that were like standouts to me. Um, Also, I guess I'll give like, I don't know. This is kind of like a thing that I liked and a thing that I didn't like at the same time was the monsters. So obviously, right? Like I don't know if this is like it's fair criticism, or I don't know how fair it really is, right? Because like take for instance the dragons in the Three Jackdaw story, right? Um, you're naturally, no matter fair or not, you're naturally going to compare it to Game of Thrones because that's still prevalent, that's still in people's minds, that still happened within the same year, right? So it's so unfair because we're talking about a show that's had what, 8 seasons, right? And the budget for Game of Thrones, I imagine, is absolutely ridiculous compared to what The Witcher's first season is. So it's like it's kind of an unfair comparison, but like you can't help but feel, a little bit like it's a little bit jarring when you compare it to that. Um, Another one that didn't work was like the Sylvian. I just did not think that looked good at all. But then there are other monsters like the Kikimora that I thought looked cool. The Striga, which I believe was a puppet, was I believe was practical. So probably that's why it actually looked pretty good to me. Um, and the Urchin as well, Dunny. So you kind of have like you give your gives and your takes, right? So like there were some that I thought, these are actually really really good, and then there was others like the Sylvian. That's the one that really just stands out. That was just like, ugh. Like I do not want to look at him anymore, honestly. Um, so yeah, I think that's pretty much the positives. So just to kind of go over it again, the characters, specifically the trio of Geralt, Yennefer, and Ciri, really worked for me. Um, Dandelion as well, or Yaskier, was really really great in my opinion. Yennefer specifically was the star of the show for me. Whenever she was on screen, she it was just like me on the edge of my seat, just like hanging on to every little word that she said. Man, like she was great in my opinion. I might be giving her a little too much credit, but I really enjoyed what Yennefer brought. Um, so yeah, characters, music, fight choreography, um, some of the monsters. Um, oh, and also sort of the um, I guess I don't know if I want to call them like the expansion, but sort of the opportunity that they took to dive a little bit deeper into um, things that we only got a glimpse of in the books. So, for example, Yennefer's backstory was something that was only really like subtly talked about during a flash, not a flashback, but I guess a flashback, but like a dream sequence, right? Was the only like big mention that we got of Yennefer's backstory of her being a hunchback. Um, so I really appreciated them. It mostly worked for me, right? That whole backstory and seeing her, training in Aretuza. I do have a lot of nitpicks with that, like the how Sabrina was depicted and Fringilla, which we'll talk about probably. Um, and things of that nature. But overall, I thought I really appreciate them trying to do something, to dive deeper into something like that. I thought was cool, as well as the Battle of Sodden Hill, right? Like this, Sodden Hill is something that we have had mention of. We have recountings of various mages of just how traumatic and horrific and just absolutely horrific of a moment that was for a lot of the mages who participated in that battle. I believe Yennefer had her eyes like burned out or something like that by Fringilla. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that did happen to Yennefer. I think, and then I also believe that Triss is she had her face burned off to the point of like she couldn't even be like recognized or something like that. But specifically Triss, like when she talks about Sodden Hill, it is something that like you just the way she talks about it is it's something that has definitely left its scars, like mentally on her, right? Um so I don't know. I just really appreciated the fact of like let's actually take a moment, an episode almost, or practically yeah, an episode to like let's actually explore this a little bit. Let's see what a battle with mages at the forefront would actually look like, right? Let's see how that affects our different mages in this, right? Let's see how it affects Yennefer. Let's see how it affects Triss, a young, inexperienced mage who's just coming in here, right? Who's still kind of wide-eyed, right? How would that affect her? Vilgefortz, so how what is that going to do to him as well? So I really think that Sodden Hill specifically was I really appreciated them taking the opportunity to um, delve a little bit deeper into a moment that we only really got to scratch the surface on in the books. Um, I think maybe some people might argue that those scenes were better off, being referred to, or being subtly hinted at or talked about or whatever. And I could definitely understand that, but I don't know. I thought it was nice actually getting to see some of these moments firsthand. Um, so yeah, I think those are definitely the things that work for me. Those are the positives. Again, a lot of positives because overall I do like this show. Um, so now let's talk about the negatives.